Everyone knows there's no bigger and better franchise than Toy Story in the animation world. But do you have any idea how many cartoons, movies, and series reference Woody, Buzz, and their friends? If there's one animated series that loves to make fun of famous cartoons and animated movies, it's Family Guy. In one of the episodes, we see Peter going up to the Griffin's attic, and he starts running tests to see if his Woody and Buzz really have a life of their own or not. And after a few attempts, when his back is turned and he gets distracted, the two action figures actually come to life and recreate the classic scene from the first movie where they fly together and get the heck out of there, leaving Peter behind. Moving on to The Simpsons, another animated series that loves to parody everything and everyone. And this was way before Disney owned Fox, the creator of The Simpsons. The proof of this is in the episode where Marge and Lisa are walking through a bunch of trash in the Simpsons' house. And if you pause at the right moment, you'll see in the background none other than Lotso himself, the villain from Toy Story 3. Apparently, he is completely out of stuffing. Could this have been his end after he was thrown into the dump at the end of the third movie in the Pixar toy franchise? And to make matters worse, we can see in another episode Bart trying to smash a Space Ranger action figure with a hammer, which is clearly a reference to Woody's best friend. The proof is that if you look closely, you'll notice that written on the toy's chest is nothing less than Buzz Space Year, referring to the full name of the action figure, which is Lightyear. The name change was definitely to prevent Disney from suing the family from Springfield. But you're mistaken if you think we only find references to Toy Story in comedy cartoons, because there are hundreds of references to Pixar's first animated feature hidden inside other movies by Pixar itself. Like in Monsters, Inc., for example, where in the farewell scene with Boo, the little girl that Mike and Sully protect in the monster world, she starts handing her toys to Sully, and to everyone's surprise, one of the dolls she hands him is exactly Jessie, one of the protagonists of Toy Story 5. She even gives the big blue-furred monster the Pixar ball right after. So, had you already noticed this when you watched the movie about the professional scarers? Where these Toy Story references came from, there's plenty more. Get ready, because we are going to blow your mind today. Still sticking with Pixar movies, we can find the most feared villain of the whole franchise resting peacefully in the bedroom of the little girl who watches Carl's house float by with balloons through her window and up. Apparently, he is pretty chill and doesn't give the impression that he's going to hurt anyone, but when it comes to Lotso, you never know, right? In another Disney movie, we find an explicit reference to our Space Ranger, Buzz. It happens in Ralph Breaks the Internet, when Vanellope goes to the Disney Hub on the internet, and there you can see several real attractions that exist in the company's theme parks, as well as characters from other movies like Baymax from Big Hero 6. And right next to the friendly robot who looks more like a walking marshmallow is none other than Buzz Lightyear himself, showing off for his fans. We talked about some animated series that mock other famous characters from the animation world, but none of them beats Robot Chicken when it comes to being ruthless. In one of its episodes, we can see a full parody of the Toy Story toys, where we get to see alternate versions of the franchise's main characters, like Buzz, Woody, Rex, and even Mr. Potato Head. In this version, the toys from Woody's gang welcome a new toy named Pinko, who is basically a piece of wood with a string making up his arms, who calls himself a highly educational toy and considers himself superior to the others. The problem is that an alternate version of Andy doesn't like him and ends up throwing him in the trash, much to the joy of Woody and Buzz. Going back to Family Guy, we find another reference to Andy's toys in another episode. In season 11, we can simply see a version of Buzz in a bar hitting on girls and promising that for each one of them, he would go to infinity and beyond. Now, returning to Monsters, Inc., the references to Toy Story are everywhere, and few people have noticed. For example, in one of the scenes from the movie about the monsters from our parallel universe, we can see Randall, the villain of the story, camouflaged against a brick wall. Someone pulls down a window blind that has the exact same print of a blue sky with white clouds as the wallpaper in Andy's bedroom from the first two Toy Story movies. Returning to The Simpsons, they even reference Mr. Potato Head, not once but 3 times. The first one we're going to mention happens in the episode where Homer ends up going on trial in a courtroom, and it's shown that the judge is none other than Mr. Potato Head himself. except with Simpsonian features, if you know what I mean. The other time we see a reference to the angriest toy in Andy's room happens when Lisa gets kicked out of a concert, and the bouncer responsible for intimidating the girl is simply a version of Mr. Potato Head, except with a carrot body instead of a spud body, along with a not-so-friendly face. Could this be Mr. Carrot Head, a distant cousin of Woody's friend? And the third time we see a reference to the toy with the most movable parts of all happens in the episode where Homer needs help thinking, so he has the brilliant idea of using a rock to hit his own head, which causes him to start seeing different things. Among them was simply a version of Mrs. Potato Head's husband, except having his body made up of a boulder instead of the plastic spud we all know. Now, if you made it this far, surely something in this video kept you hooked until now, so we certainly deserve your subscription. Once again, going back to the Robot Chicken series, in another Toy Story parody we can see that Andy has 2 of each of his toys, and because of that, he ends up having the brilliant idea to sell half of them on the internet. To give you an idea, for Buzz alone he managed to get $800. I think that's basically the same thing Lilypad did with Jessie in Toy Story 5, don't you agree? Besides Robot Chicken, there is another show that does pretty heavy parodies of the most famous cartoons and movies in the world. And they created an alternate version of the spy movie The Bourne Identity, but called The Buzz Identity, focusing on how the rather crude and ugly Space Ranger is on a quest to discover who he really was, and if he was still a CIA agent. In this parody, they even end up recreating that scene from Toy Story 3 where Lotso, with the help of his cronies, opens the information box on Buzz's back and resets the Space Ranger. We don't even need to say that it all ends with the Buzz action figure smashing into a wall and waking up in a bed surrounded by his friends Woody and Ken, as well as Lotso himself, who is the cause of everything in this completely insane parody. There is an extremely explicit reference to one of the coolest characters in Toy Story in one of my favorite Pixar movies that we've already talked about in this video, Monsters, Inc. We're talking about the scene where Mike and Sully are going to cross the street and there is a giant reptile's foot next to the 2 friends. Right after, the shot pans out and we can see that it's the foot of our beloved Rex from Toy Story. Man, I love that character. This scene doesn't happen in either of the monster movies, but in a short film made by Pixar to do a crossover between the 2 movies. But for sure, the scene and the reference turned out really cool, don't you agree? If you're still not a fan of The Simpsons, you might start liking them after this video, because we are going to mention the Yellow family from Springfield one more time. That's because in the episode called The Color Yellow, we see Ralph, Chief Wiggum's son, showing everyone a drawing he made after dreaming that cartoon characters, including Buzz from Toy Story, had invited him to a party. And on the piece of paper the kid holds up, we can see that there really is a version of Buzz drawn by Ralph himself. Going back to the Pixar movies, if you're a little older, you've definitely watched A Bug's Life, one of the first movies from the company to be released after Toy Story. If you haven't watched it, your dad or mom definitely have. The fact is that at the end of the movie, the Pixar animators made a sort of bloopers reel. And in one of those bloopers, none other than Woody himself shows up to reset the scene that had gone wrong. Kind of like he was working as a stagehand on the movie. I knew some people worked 2 jobs, but this one definitely caught me by surprise. In another scene that is also in this batch of bloopers in A Bug's Life, we see Flick, the main character, grab a dandelion, which he uses in the movie to glide. And right after that, he shouts Buzz's famous catchphrase, "To infinity and beyond," making a really cool reference to our Space Ranger from Toy Story. In another parody created by the twisted writers of Robot Chicken, we see a version of Toy Story where Andy grew up and is now bringing girls to his room full of toys. And at a certain point, the kid ends up breaking Buzz while he's making out in the room. Buzz is in so much pain, just so much pain, that Woody can't stand seeing his friend suffer, so he decides to end his pain himself using a pillow. Truly, this was the cruelest version of Toy Story I've seen so far. In another episode of Family Guy, we find a not-so-child-friendly version of the Toy Story events involving Buzz and Woody. In this version, the sheriff comes home only to find Bo Peep cheating on him with the Space Ranger in his own bedroom. That was definitely enough to ruin my childhood. Our list is over, but you don't have to leave. We've set aside 2 videos right here on the side for you to keep having fun. Pick one and let's go to the next one.